There are things in this universe we were never meant to understand. For centuries, we've reached for the stars, searching for meaning in the dark. But tonight, the dark reached back. Something moved out there. Not drifting, not random, alive, watching, waiting, and it just took its first breath. They call it Atlas 3I. In September 2025, a deep space monitoring array known as ATLAS became the center of a quiet revolution in astronomy. Operated jointly by NASA and the European Space Agency, its telescopes scanned the outer rim of our solar system, searching for debris beyond Neptune's orbit. What they found wasn't debris. At first, the readings looked routine, a faint infrared trace recorded by the James Webb Telescope. It was catalogued as a possible cometary object, later labeled Atlas 3I, another cold fragment drifting through the void. But almost immediately, its behavior defied expectations. Atlas 3I wasn't following a typical gravitational path. Its velocity shifted in precise intervals, suggesting subtle corrections, as if something inside it was maintaining course. Its rotation appeared unnaturally steady, even across vast distances of magnetic interference. Astronomers questioned the calibration. They recalibrated again. The numbers didn't change. Data from the ESA tracking unit in Madrid confirmed identical readings. Over 72 hours, the trajectory stabilized perfectly, an impossible level of precision for a natural body traveling at those speeds. Still, the official explanations remained conservative. NASA called it a reactive fragment, but within internal channels, debate grew. If the data was legitimate, Atlas 3I was operating under guidance unknown to any celestial body in recorded history. The public heard nothing. The reports stayed internal. Only one line appeared in a technical release weeks later, a phrase overlooked by most readers. Object demonstrates non-gravitational motion within acceptable observation error. For the scientists watching the feed, that error was more than acceptable. It was terrifyingly deliberate. At 2:17 UTC, the James Webb Telescope recorded something unexpected from 3I Atlas, a faint light, steady at first, then pulsing in rhythm. Every 17 seconds, a deep red glow expanded and contracted across the object's surface. The readings were consistent, intentional, a pattern, not a fluctuation. Spectral analysis came back clean. No reflection anomalies, no particle interference, no ionization bursts one would expect from a comet. In the data logs, the entry appeared under a new header, Pulse Event. Within hours, Japan's Subaru Observatory confirmed the same frequency pattern. Two separate telescopes, thousands of kilometers apart, reading identical light behavior. It wasn't coincidence. In high-resolution captures, the phenomenon looked almost biological, a heartbeat suspended in space. Researchers suggested heat variation or energy discharge, yet the temperature curve didn't change. No rise, no decay, constant energy levels. Then came the most disturbing discovery. Cross-referencing older web logs, analysts found traces of the same pulse as far back as 6 months earlier. It had been there all along, quiet, hidden in the noise. Now it was intensifying. The tone of the reports shifted from curiosity to concern. One astronomer described the glow as too regular to be random. Another whispered in a private call, "It feels like it's responding." But to what? By morning, every major space station focused its optical arrays toward 3I Atlas. The pulse continued, unchanged, unwavering, patient, as if waiting for someone or something to notice. The following 48 hours changed everything. At first, the data seemed corrupted. Entire lines of telemetry scrambled, sectors of footage flickering into static the moment 3I Atlas came into frame. Engineers blamed a fault in the data relay system, but after multiple resets, signal interference continued, only when tracking 3I Atlas. Then came a series of encrypted emails within NASA's internal network. The subject line was the same across departments, Project Icarus. By dawn, all mentions of 3I Atlas vanished from public archives. Only a single redacted update remained online. Object status under review. Privately, however, teams across 3 continents continued to observe. What they found next shattered procedure. The pulse wasn't random emission. Hidden inside the red wavelength, a a secondary pattern appeared. Mathematical, deliberate, structured. Binary data, encoded in the light itself, were repeating intervals. 101101, pause. 101101, pause. At first, analysts suspected calibration noise, photonic scatter from the telescope's receiver. But the repetition was too precise, each pulse perfectly timed to the microsecond. When these data packets were converted into acoustic form, something emerged, a tone. Low, oscillating, almost harmonic. One researcher described it simply as, "It feels alive." More observatories reported interference. Chile, Australia, South Africa. Each telescope that locked onto 3I Atlas experienced brief data corruption and high-frequency static bleeding into their network channels. The deeper they observed, the stronger the interference became. Someone inside the Jet Propulsion Laboratory leaked an internal memo describing unknown algorithmic signatures embedded in the transmission. It referred to patterns identical to modern encryption architectures, but with no identifiable source. At this point, control shifted from scientists to security. 3I Atlas's coordinates were labeled classified. Transmission data rerouted through private servers. Public access terminated, but information still escaped. Late one night, astronomers at the European Southern Observatory obtained a fragment of raw feed, one frame before transmission blackout. That single frame contained a new pattern, concentric hexagonal structures rotating at different rates, as if gears hidden beneath light. Reports circulated among researchers calling it mechanical symphony or techno-organic construct. The official line, optical artifact. The unofficial truth, no one could explain it. Meanwhile, the pulse began to accelerate, from 17 seconds per interval to 14, then 12. Each change synchronized globally without delay, as if the object were aware of being watched. Scientific discussion turned into quiet fear. A senior astrophysicist at ESA summarized it in 4 words. "Science doesn't cover this." Equipment continued to fail. Signals were jammed. The Atlas array itself, designed to detect gamma bursts billions of light years away, went offline momentarily each time 3I Atlas pulsed, as though the object had the power to silence the instruments built to find it. And somewhere, in encrypted communication channels, a new theory began to spread. Perhaps it wasn't just emitting light. Perhaps it was listening. By the end of the week, the object's trajectory began to shift, slowing, decelerating against all gravitational logic. Its speed decreased by nearly 4% without any external influence. No jet emissions, no visible propulsion, just motion, choosing to stop. Infrared mapping revealed something beyond comprehension. Beneath the flickering red halo, detailed structure began to appear. Hard edges where none should exist. NASA's Deep Space Network pulled the latest telemetry feeds, running them through model reconstructions. What they saw silenced the room. 3I Atlas wasn't round. It wasn't irregular like rock or ice. It was geometrically perfect. A lattice of interlocking surfaces, forming a vast symmetrical shape, an artificial hexagonal frame. The outer shell emitted high-energy radiation, while the core stayed near absolute zero, a surface burning fire red while the heart froze into darkness. Physics doesn't allow that. Every natural body radiates heat outward, yet sensors registered no thermal diffusion. The energy wasn't escaping, it was controlled, locked, as if contained within engineered boundaries. Scientists proposed theories: electromagnetic containment, exotic matter, cryofusion reactions, but none held up. Everything contradicted established laws. A natural object cannot self-stabilize its temperature gradient. It cannot slow its speed through vacuum without thrust. But 3I Atlas did. An emergency meeting inside the European Space Command produced an unofficial conclusion no one wanted to speak aloud. The structure is artificial. Still, the analysis continued. Reflected radio waves mapped detailed geometry across the surface. Rows of symmetrical indentations, too precise to be random. Some patterns resembled symbols, others formed repeating ratios found in engineered architecture. At full magnification, a single anomaly stood out, a perfect circular aperture on the central axis, slowly opening. Inside, instruments detected intense magnetic distortion, then silence. The aperture closed. The signal ceased. One cryptic message appeared moments later among encrypted data packets transmitted to the Atlas network control. A clean binary chain, simple, short, and unmistakable. When the broadcasts went dark, the world was left with fragments, whispers of data, redacted reports, conflicting statements. But inside the scientific community, theories began to spread like wildfire. 3 interpretations survived the scrutiny, each more unsettling than the last. The first was the beacon theory. According to this idea, 3I Atlas wasn't here for us, but because of something else, a cosmic alarm built by an unknowable civilization to warn of approaching danger. Some suggested it was triggered by thresholds, radio saturation, atomic testing, or the rise of artificial intelligence on inhabited worlds. If that were true, 3I Atlas's awakening wasn't coincidence. It was a response. Maybe the universe had noticed what kind of species we've become and decided we needed a warning. The second was the Cedar theory. To its believers, 3I Atlas was a mechanism, a carrier of genetic potential, or machinery designed to terraform. The contrast between burning surface and frozen core hinted at containment, one side creating, the other preserving. Perhaps it had been traveling across galaxies for eons, seeding life, reconstructing ecosystems, or building the blueprint for civilizations long forgotten. And now, after its long journey, it had reached us. If that were true, it wasn't an arrival, it was a return. Then came the test theory, the one scientists whispered when cameras were off. What if 3I Atlas was never meant to act at all? What if it was simply watching, recording, measuring what humanity does when confronted by something beyond reason? A psychological experiment on a civilization scale. Our broadcasts, our debates, our fear, they'd all be data, a report for entities observing from the dark. Each theory carried its own terror. A warning device meant danger close. A cedar implied purpose, maybe ownership, and a test meant we were already inside the experiment. But beyond the physics and speculation, there was a deeper question. Not what 3I Atlas is, but why now? Humanity has stared at the heavens for millennia, searching for proof we're not alone. But perhaps the timing of this discovery says more about us than about it. We've built machines that reach the stars, fractured atoms, decoded genomes, and in doing so, announced ourselves to the universe. Maybe 3I Atlas isn't the first contact we expected, but the answer we earned. We've always looked to the stars, hoping to find answers to our place in the cosmos. But this time, something looked back. If 3I Atlas wanted to remain hidden, it could have, and yet it chose to reveal itself. Why now? What does it want from us? The questions remain unanswered, suspended in the vast silence of space, waiting, watching. In the next video, we'll dive deeper into what this contact might mean for humanity's future. Because sometimes, the greatest mysteries aren't the ones we solve, but the ones that change everything we thought we knew. Stay tuned.